100 questions about writing in 5 minutes or less. Here we go. Question 10. Do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will find? Absolutely yes. There are lots of things in my books that I put in there that are nods to things that I like. From pop culture, favourite books, TV shows, films, characters, whatever it might be. There are lots of little details in there that if you know the thing, you'll pick it up. It doesn't detract from the story, it's just a little nod to it. Sometimes there are certain things in my books that are quite specific, that are focused on a particular thing, that are nod towards something. I'm acknowledging it as a homage. I'm not just referencing it. I'm not just using a similar name because I want to invoke a particular feeling. So there's a little small nod to these things. Occasionally a reader will contact me on social media or through email and say, I've just finished this book and I've noticed this detail. Is this what I think this is? Because they're also a fan of that thing. And it adds to the experience and it gives them a little bit of a thrill. And it's really quite exciting for them to find these kind of secret things in there, because they can see some of the things that have influenced me, that have inspired me, that made me want to write this particular story. The other way to look at this question is about what the book is actually about beyond the surface. If you read the back of any book, it tells you the story, but it doesn't tell you what the book is actually focused on. What are the themes? What is the message it's trying to convey? I talked about this in a previous book, saying that some books, if the message is so strong and it's really apparent that it becomes a soapbox for the author to focus on a particular issue, I'm not interested in that. But sometimes a story could be about an adventure, but it's actually talking about a number of other things. The best science fiction for me is about holding up a mirror to the known world and talking about something indirectly through a kind of fuzzy lens so that isn't really obvious. It's a way for writers to explore things, look at a theme and look at both sides of an argument and talk about it whilst also having some kind of an adventure story. The titles of my books, some of them are really obvious, some of them focus on something else. My second book is called Blood Mage, and someone said, well, there isn't a character in the book called the Blood Mage. And that's true, because that's not what it's actually about. It's not that literal. Most of my titles are not that literal. They're talking about a theme, a particular feel that's focused on something. One of my books, The Coward, someone says, oh, the main character isn't a coward. Who said the story was about him? Who said the title referred to about him? There again, it's focused on a theme. And whilst the initial story is about an adventure, someone going back on a quest again, there are a lot of layers beyond the original surface for what the story is actually about. Some people will read some of my books and they just get the adventure that's on the surface, like The Coward. They think, oh, it's just a reimagined quest fantasy story. They have fun with it. Great. But if anybody is actually paying attention or they read the story beyond the surface, they will see there's an exploration or a number of other things to do with heroism, cowardice. It's how we put celebrities up on a pedestal, hero worship, how we're willing to forgive certain things. It's about propaganda, it's about fake news, it's about celebrity culture in general. All of these things were swirling around my head. And there again, it's not obvious. I'm not preaching. This isn't propaganda in the story. It's just part of the world that I've created. The most upsetting, or perhaps the most disappointing thing is, you'll put all of this stuff in any of your stories, whatever you're actually talking about, beyond the surface. And some readers will just not get it. They won't understand it, they won't pay attention to it, they'll skim a book and move on to the next one. And that's quite upsetting as a writer, but you can't control that, so you have to accept it. And also it's fantastic when readers do get that and they reach out to you and have these conversations with you as the author. That's the most satisfying thing. And I do it because I'm actually talking about something in each of my stories. It's important that I write something that's just beyond the surface. And so it's nice when people find these things and communicate with the author. So always tell the author, email them, contact them on social media. If you think something or you have questions or you've worked something out, definitely contact the author, because there's always stuff hidden in their books.